Because so often we start interfering because we start to feel uncomfortable.
Welcome to In the Spotlight. Today my guest is Annemiek van Helsdingen, founder of the Academy for Soul-Based Coaching. And Annemiek is going to share with us the 3 key pillars to start coaching from your soul. Welcome, Annemiek.
Thank you.
Lovely to have you here. Let's dive straight into things. What is soul-based coaching?
Soul-based coaching is a way of coaching that fully serves the deepest knowing that we have as human beings, our soul knowing. We hold space for that, and it guides us into incredibly potent transformations.
Sounds mysterious. Their soul knowing, our soul knowing. What do you mean by that?
Well, all of us have Shakti energy running through us. It's life energy. It literally is the energy that creates the world. And that energy runs the show. We set that center stage. So not our fears, but our hopes, our dreams, and that unique personal thread of Shakti energy. Holding space for that is the foundation for everything that we do in soul-based coaching.
So soul knowing, Shakti energy. So how is soul-based coaching different from all other existing coaching methods out there?
Well, one way in that it's different is that it requires the coach to stay out of the process. So while we guide it, we don't actually know what steps the client is going to take on their journey. So we don't have to outsmart them in any way, and we don't have to know it all. That's one way it's different. Another way that it's different is that traditional coaching comes from a very masculine paradigm. It's about frameworks, it's about steps to get to a goal. And in a way, as coaches, we say, let's take this client where I think they need to go. And in soul-based coaching, we don't do that. What we do is we create a riverbed for that Shakti flow. And in that riverbed, everything is welcome. The feminine, chaos, the darkness, the light, anything that is part of it. And while we're holding space, our client can become who they need to be to achieve their desired outcomes. And that's what soul-based coaching is all about. And we do not let the mind run the show. So we take our clients beyond logic, beyond the analysis that we are so fond of in our world.
That is very different from traditional coaching methods, where the mind plays a big part. Why do you feel it's so important that our mind doesn't run the show?
Well, Albert Einstein said that the soul is our master and the mind its humble servant. And we've created a society that honors the servant and has forgotten the master. See, our soul knows why we're here. It actually has the roadmap to live the life that we came here for. So that's why we set that information center stage. And the mind is welcome to join. I mean, it's welcome to play, but it just doesn't run the circus.
The more you share, the more curious I get to how can we apply soul-based coaching and really start coaching from the soul? You're going to share with us 3 key pillars today. Go ahead, what's the first one?
The first key pillar is holding space. So traditionally in coaching, people come to us with a problem, right?
Yeah.
And they expect us to fix it, or they expect our help to fix it. So what we do is we listen, we analyze what they're saying, and we think, what is the tool that is going to get them to where they want to go the quickest? So the tool out of my toolbox. So the coach decides what they are going to do to take their client there. And while they're doing that, they're starting to fix it. They're starting to come from that belief that they are there to decide what the best tool is, what the best question is. And they take on that responsibility. And as they're doing that, they're taking away the power and the possibilities that the client actually holds. See, every client holds everything that they need within themselves. So that requires us, though, to hold space.
Okay, so holding space, no fixing. Can you share a little bit more about how that actually works?
So when our client comes to us, what we do is we listen. We are fully present with them. We receive them in the experience that they're having without interfering. Because so often we start interfering because we start to feel uncomfortable. And when we do that, we get in the way of that Shakti flow.
So can you give us an example on how to apply holding space?
right at the beginning, when a new client comes to us, they start talking about their situation and their problems, unloading, and they come to a space where it's the edge of what they want, but are very, very clear about not having that yet. And it's a very uncomfortable place to be, where they feel that tension. And that's when coaches very often step in to take that discomfort away, and let's take you through a couple of steps. And that's something that we don't do, because that discomfort is really rich. Of course, we're going to help them, but in a different way.
But does it mean that you never interfere at all? You just hold for your client?
No, there is a way that we're helping them, and that means that we are holding space and we interfere, but we do it in a way that does not block that Shakti flow. And that makes all the difference. And this is when we start to ask some essential questions.
Which naturally brings us to the second pillar. Please share with us what it is.
Yeah, they are the essential coaching questions. And in soul-based coaching, there's about 12 that make up probably 90% of any soul-based coaching conversation.
So you've got 12 questions. What is the most important question to ask?
Well, without a doubt, it's the million-dollar question. It's, and what would you like to have happen? What it does is that it allows the client to dream, right? To express what they want without taking full ownership of that yet. And it also asks them to connect more closely with their desired outcomes, even if they haven't admitted them to themselves yet, which happens a lot more often than you think. So the answer to this question is the lighthouse. Everything else we do is in service of that answer.
So the number one question, what would you like to have happen? And can you give us an example on how to apply that question?
Yeah, definitely. And also maybe about how it's different from traditional coaching. Whereas if we don't do this, when we don't ask that question, when we don't get that lighthouse, we start to project. So for example, when you have a client that says, I feel ugly and fat, it's easy to think, oh, you want to lose weight. We might even say that as coaches, and the client will start to think about that. If we don't do any of that, but ask them that question, and what would you like to have happen, what might turn out is that they might really like to feel shining and attractive again.
With their current weight, for example?
Well, yes, yeah, absolutely. So it's not only that there's a whole host of different things that need to happen in the course of that coaching session, but we don't get to the full motivation of people unless we ask them that question and really listen very closely to the answer. So literally, don't change a word. Stay with what they have told you. That's where the power lies.
What would you like to have happen? Beautiful question to ask anyone, I think.
Absolutely, especially in any situation where you feel stuck.
Yeah.
Ask them, and what would you like? Or ask yourself, what would I like to have happen now?
Beautiful. So that's the second pillar. What's the third key pillar to soul-based coaching?
Well, this is where we invite in the magic. Soul-based coaching, the magic of soul-based coaching really starts to happen when we apply these essential questions to something I call personal metaphors. So you might hear metaphors and think, oh, that's like literature class. But it's so much more than that. When we look at metaphors, it's actually the primary operating system that our system operates on. It's one of the first things that we learn to do when we're very, very small, to express one thing in terms of something else. And everything that we experience comes from the lens of a metaphor, even if we're not aware of it. So when I tell you, when I'm coaching, I feel like a fish in water. Of course, I'm not an actual fish. I'm not actually in the water. But I speak of the experience of what it's like to be a fish in water and not a fish on land or anywhere else. So it speaks of my physical ease to be in that environment, to move with the flow, to be in connection with my students. And all of that is kind of like zipped up in that little metaphor that sometimes slips out through our language.
Yeah.
And that's really powerful when we start to work with that. And these metaphors are beautiful and great, and you can just leave them be, but sometimes they don't serve us. And that's a really good reason to start working with them directly.
So can you give us an example of a metaphor, a personal metaphor that doesn't actually serve us?
An obvious one is when you're saying that you're banging your head against the wall. Chances are you're not actually doing that, but
Hopefully.
hopefully, yeah. But still, the experience you're having is one that it's not resourceful, it's not helping you get where you want to be. So again, then the question is to ask that essential question of what would you like to have happen? When this is how it is now, what would you like to have happen? So to give you an example of a client, a coaching client of mine, she was experiencing a really tight situation. She felt so tight, so constricted in her life, and she knew that she had all this power, really wanting to get that out, and it was really difficult for her to do that. So when we started to explore that with those questions, what emerged was a metaphor of giant wings that were growing from her shoulders and that were wrapping around her really closely. And when we started to explore those wings, they were there to keep her safe, which is of course beautiful.
Yeah.
A really good purpose for wings when they do that. Only there was something else that she wanted now. She wanted to go out and fly. She didn't want to be kept safe anymore in that same way. So what we do then in soul-based coaching is we start asking questions of the wings, for example. And when we were doing that...
So you really start communicating with the wings?
Yeah, and all the other parts of her system, her soul, body, mind system that were part of this, because the wings were keeping her safe for a reason. There were other parts involved. So we were exploring that, and while we were exploring that, the wings changed color at some stage. Other parts were shifting in her system, and fast forward quite a bit, she was flying. And when she was flying, that meant that something physically had shifted for her. So literally on a level of neurons and our physical awareness, something has shifted.
Could you feel it in that moment when she started sharing about flying?
Absolutely. You can feel it in the energy, but more importantly, I can hear her say different things. She is feeling different things. She's thinking different things. She started doing different things. And this is where I really hold the magic very dear, because that change has been integrated in her system. In that moment, when the wings started flying, that was it. It was all embodied and integrated in her system. So pure magic in the sense that you don't know where it's going to come from exactly, but when you stay there and you know how to focus your questions, how to hold that riverbed, that change is going to happen.
I just love how it's not about you having an agenda as a coach or wanting to fix and have all the answers and force your action steps upon your client, but how it's more about relaxing, holding, and letting the magic unfold. Beautiful. I'm curious, where do you get your knowledge and wisdom from?
Well, for over 20 years, I've been in the field of facilitating change, so both in the corporate world and in the one-to-one arena. And I've just been so amazed by how much time and money is being spent on change initiatives that don't work. When you come back 6 months later, not only is nothing left of that situation, but oftentimes it's worse than before they started. So I was always really curious about what makes for a change to last, to really... Yeah, and to actually make things better for everybody, preferably. So that quest brought me to Clean Language by David Grove and Symbolic Modeling by Penny Tompkins and James Lawley. And once I started to have those tools in my toolbox, I could kind of let go of all the other tools I had, because this was giving me such a different way of working with my clients, and I could just see magical results. And this is when people started coming to me and saying, I want to learn what you do, which is about 10 years ago now. And it was great until I had my spiritual wake-up call, which is a really neat way of saying that. My body completely stopped functioning, and dealing with autoimmunity, I noticed that the only thing I could do was that which was completely aligned with who I am and what I'm here for. And that was the invitation to bring in my priestess self and to bring in the tools that I had gathered along the way of 20 years of spiritual and personal development, and really see how all of that connected so beautifully. And that was the birth of soul-based coaching.
And so soul-based coaching was born. How can people learn more about soul-based coaching?
Well, the Academy has a signature program called Invoke Your Client's Magic. So within 5 months, you can become a soul-based coach. And it's an online program, which means that you can dive into the content in your pajamas from the comfort of your home.
Love it.
Yeah. However, we do have weekly live sessions, and I think this is really, really key, because you do not learn to coach from just watching something or just reading something. You need to make the practice hours, and you need to get personal feedback. And with modern technology, we can just do this. So we have these live sessions, which is a lot of fun, a lot of practice hours, and we build a very strong community. And after the 5 months are over, you are a certified soul-based coach, and you'll see that you'll be able to rock the world of the clients that come to you, and find that coaching is something that you can do with ease and with a lot of fulfillment.
So you work in English?
I do, yeah. I do work with people from all over the world, and it's brilliant to connect with all the continents and start building that network.
I love that, the worldwide community. So is that program you offer, Invoke Your Client's Magic, is that for new coaches or for experienced coaches also?
It's actually an important question, because it's for both, and that often surprises people. People that are already trained as a coach often think that they're already doing it, they're already holding space, they already know how to get to that magic. But everyone who enrolls into the program finds out that there is a whole new layer and levels of magic to uncover, and it's really a very different way of working. And this is also why, for new coaches, it brings you all the tools that you need to start building your coaching practice.
So finally, what if people watching right now want to learn more about you? Where can they go?
Well, the best place to go is the website for the Academy, and you can always drop me an email and share what you're looking for, and we can explore together what would be the best fit for you.
Less fixing, more holding. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you very much.